I'm back out here today. We're going to do some more shooting with the AR10 TAC-18. It's an 18-inch 308 AR-10 platform rifle manufactured by Armalite. I'm going to be shooting 5 rounds of AAC. It's 168 grain hollow point. It is supposed to be a match round, which I was not having the greatest success with accuracy, shooting it off of the ground out to where I was shooting at was around 186 yards. Now I've got this pulled into 100 yards, shooting off of a bench using a Caldwell Rock BR front rest and the Caldwell rear bag. Okay, that's 5 shots. Rifle cycled fine, locked open on the last round fired. I wasn't really paying attention to what the ejection pattern is, but you'll be able to see it in the video, how the brass is ejecting. That is one surefire way to see how consistent the actual cartridges are loaded. If you have the same consistent ejection coming out of especially a gas rifle like this, every round, then you know you're pretty well consistent. Now if you're shooting left, right, looking at it on the frame, then you might have a little bit of an issue with either inconsistent powder, or it could be the rifle just does not like that load. You will run into that a lot. That's why I've got 4 different kinds of ammo here by AAC. We'll go down and take a look at the target. Next, I'll be shooting the 175 grain match round and 308 by AAC. 5 rounds. Again, 5 rounds, 0 malfunctions, and the bolt locked open on the last round. This was 5 rounds of AAC 175 grain 308 match ammo in the blue box. Here you can see the 2 groups. The one on the right is the 168 grain AAC match, and the one a little bit tighter on the left-hand side is the 175 grain AAC match. Both of these are 308, of course. The 2 rounds that you see in the 168 group, there are 5 rounds there, and there's actually 1 round from the 175 that almost split the 2 lower rounds there of the 168. So both, I'd say, are probably 2 1/4 MOA on the 168 and maybe 2.5-ish on the 175. I will say the 175 has shot much better, in my opinion, than what it shot the first time I was running it through my AR10. So I got maybe one flyer there that's going into the group of the 168, which that was more than likely me. I haven't really been doing a whole lot of shooting here lately. I am using a Geisley 2-stage high-speed match trigger set up with DMR springs in it, so it is probably one of the best that I could put in that rifle. Next up is AAC and a .175, well, 168 OTM round. I just noticed that you always want to check your knobs. I did not have this re-zeroed. It was actually, I was wondering why I was shooting so high, and I had it spun up to 4 MOA because I had been doing shooting at 300 yards earlier. So always be sure to check your adjustments to make sure when you're doing stuff like this, everything is re-zeroed. That is 5 rounds fired. I do not have a, I think that was all 5. I don't know if I'm got a failure to extract. So, locked open. I don't know why the round seemed like it did not want to unchamber once it was chambered. It's an interesting little side note. I'm going to have to do some more experimenting with that and see if this brass likes to stick in the chamber of my AR10. It is 175 grain OTM rounds. As you can see, the boxes are black for the OTM 308. I want to say the velocity on this one is around 2650. I haven't mentioned much about the velocities on the other ones because a lot of the velocities on all 4 of these rounds I'm going to be shooting today are all within, if I remember correctly from AAC's website, within 50 feet per second of each other. So you're going to be 2600 to 2650. 168 to 175 isn't a huge grain change, so I wasn't expecting that much of a difference in velocity. But again, as I mentioned with the first 168 round, 168 grain round I was shooting, it's interesting to pay attention to the ejection patterns because, as I mentioned, if you have a consistent load, your ejection should be consistently flying out in the same direction and roughly the same area. Now, the best way to kind of visualize that is when you're standing over top of the rifle. They said for a properly gassed AR, you want them going out between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock on a, basically figure you got a clock sitting over top of it. The ejection port is straight out. You want it to between the 3 and 4 o'clock to be properly gassed. If it's undergassed, it'll be past 4 o'clock, and if it's overgassed, it's going to be more 2 o'clock and 1 o'clock. So obviously you're never going to get anything going either straight forward or straight back, so you figure 1 to 2 overgassed, something more like a past 4 into 5 is going to be undergassed. So this does have an adjustable gas block on it, so I could actually go through and custom tune the gas system on this 308, but I've already got the gas system tuned for a 168 grain federal gold medal match, which has a ejection pattern when it's on the ground. It'll all land within a foot of each other. So I do like the way that actually is set up. The first 2 blue boxes, you're looking at a pattern on the ground of probably around 3 feet, which still makes it really easy to find your brass. So next I'm going to go down and see what the group looked like. As you can see, adjusting my turret knob back down to 0 from the 4, which would have been 4 minutes of adjustment it was up, did bring the group down probably, well, in a perfect world it would have been 4 MOA, but it looks like it adjusted the group down 3. Let's see the middle of that, 1, 2, yeah, probably 3, 4, depends on where the other ones are actually hitting in retrospect. You can't really judge that because the rounds aren't the exact same round. So, but going into the 168 OTM AAC on the lower section there, closer to the bullseye, you have, I'd say that's easily under a 2 MOA group. And it probably could be tighter. Stop moving the phone, the bugs are bothering me. It probably could have been tighter if I was using a better bench to shoot off of. What I'm actually shooting off of is another Caldwell product. It's, I want to say, the Steady Table Light. It's great for being able to pack up and move around. It's not an overly heavy table, but the problem is without like a more solid wooden bench, which I would like to build here one of these years to be able to shoot off of, will give you a lot less movement, because right now I do have a lot of movement in my crosshair, so it's not the sturdiest of shooting platforms, but it definitely is better than what I was getting when I was shooting off the ground at 185, 186. Again, this is 100 yards. Great for figuring out what your actual group sizes are, because everything should hold true to your MOA designation. So again, that should be well under 2 MOA for that 168 AAC. Okay, last up is the 175 grain OTM round by AAC. The OTM rounds are in black boxes. OTM stands for open tip match. I'm going to go ahead and shoot the 175 and see how that performs. And 5 rounds. No cycling issues. Bolt held open, if I can speak. Bolt held open on the last round. So as you can see, using a 10-round magazine with this setup is ideal. That way your knob here doesn't impact, because if you try to run a 20 or a 25 rounder, or even the 20 round metal magazines that are out there, they're too long, they're going to impact the top of that knob. I found that out the hard way. That's why I had to hunt around, because nobody around our area here wants to carry a 10-round magazine, because we don't have magazine restrictions here in Wisconsin. So I ended up having to get lucky and found this one years back at one of my gun dealers. So, of course, I didn't mention before, but I am using a Flatline Optics bubble level. That aids you to make sure that the crosshair is as even as possible. Other than that, that's been the 175 grain OTM round, 5 rounds. I'll pick up my brass. It looks like most of my brass is sitting just behind the tripod where I'm using to film this. So I do like to see that, as I mentioned on a couple previous occasions in this video. If you have a consistent ejection pattern, that means you're more than likely running a consistently loaded ammunition. If your ejection pattern is all over the place, like you're going to find with the M80, that's all mass production. They want to get that stuff out and turn it out as quickly and cheaply as possible. So it is good to see that I want to say everything except for the 168 grain match blue box, the 175 blue box, the 175 OTM black box, and the 168 OTM black box has all been consistent in the same group out on the ground. So as I mentioned, I do like seeing that. I'm going to go down and see what we got for a group. So with recording these, I haven't been taking pictures of my target. So I had to go back and grab a still from my previous recording here when I was shooting the 168 grain OTM. As you can see, the 175 OTM and the 168 OTM, I say, would almost be able to use the exact same zero. I've been the most impressed, I would say. The 175 blue box match, that shot pretty good. But all in all, I'd say that's a little over a 2-minute group, probably 2.5. But as I mentioned, with what my shooting setup is, and I mean, I'm no skilled marksman by any stretch of the imagination, but all in all, I'd have to say the OTM rounds are going to be my favorite. I might lean more toward the 175 versus the actually I want to say it's a 178 match by AAC in the blue box, now that I think of it. So I was wrong previously in calling it a 175. It is a 178. And I want to say that one has the highest BC of any of the rounds that are offered by AAC in the 308. So if you're looking for BC and something that shoots good, maybe steer more toward that 178 match. But of course, this is out of my AR10. Now, if you have the exact same rifle, you could get all different results. I mean, it doesn't seem like two rifles ever want to shoot the same. But I am interested in shooting this in a couple of my other 308 rifles. I have a Springfield Armory M1A National Match rifle that the scope on that is designed for 168 grain rounds, so I might actually try out the 168 OTMs and the regular match rounds out of that and see how that shoots. I've got a little Mossberg MVP Thunder Ranch edition. It's a bolt action that uses the AR10 style magazines, so kind of a nice little swappable system there, so you can get higher capacity magazines to be able to throw into a little bolt gun. That's got an 18-inch medium heavy contour barrel with open sights and a Picatinny rail over the action, so plenty of different ways to do sighting systems on that. But that will complete my shooting today of the AR10 TAC 18. I just wish I would have been able to pick that rifle up before COVID hit, because after COVID hit, the price of the gun went up around $500, and I bought it probably around 2 years ago, so I've been steadily watching the prices of it, seeing if it ever goes back down, and man, nothing has gone down after COVID. So if there's something you like and you want it, no point waiting, because it's never going to go back down in price. Okay, slow motion is recording. I have the AR10. We are loaded up with we are not loaded. We are now loaded up with a 178 grain AAC match hollow point. Checking penetration test in 3, 2, 1. Yes, that definitely penetrated. Up next is going to be the 175 OTM round. She, of course, locked open. I am completely splattered with blue slime. Reset and try the next round. Now it's time for the 175 OTM round by AAC. We'll see what kind of a difference this makes. Both are recording. 3, 2, 1. Well, I am not sure where the milk jug went, but I definitely got nailed a lot worse on that one than I did with the first 168. I don't know if I... Shut that bad boy. Yeah, I don't... I got hammered. It's definitely a lot more energetic, yeah. Milk jug went behind me.